Action.
One guy is happily divorced. One guy is happily married. One guy gets called Daddy by his 3 beautiful daughters.
It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Throws, ends it, caught, touchdown, they did it!
Yes, good afternoon. Hour number 2 here on the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. Streaming on 1069thefan.com and the 1069 The Fan mobile app. Of course, if you want to chime in, we always love to get your texts on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, 435-339-0321. And still a lot of things to discuss. Last hour, we covered Utah State and Mountain West football win totals. We heard from Noah Avenger. We heard from Jalen Royals and Andy Reid about how Jalen is performing at Kansas City. And former Utah State Director of Athletics, John Hartwell, left USU to go to and ended up at Louisiana Monroe. But today, news that he is stepping down at that position. So Utah State still looking for its permanent AD for the future. I don't think John Hartwell would be a legitimate candidate, but
he left Utah State to get closer to his family. He's not coming back. If he takes a new job, it'll be somewhere in the South. So that's where he's from. That's where he wants to be. He feels most comfortable there. So wish him the best of luck.
Yes. See a couple of things coming through on the Full Court Press text line. 9315. Thoughts on the Damian Lillard situation with Weber State? Could Utah State do something similar, and who would they get?
Yeah. Really quick, though, 7994 saying, oops, someone forgot you were good for 2 hours. Yeah, the Odd Couple intro came on for a couple of seconds there.
Don't need the Odd Couple when we have a better duo.
Yeah, we got that.
Thank you, 7994.
But as far as 9-5 and the Weber State hired by Damian Lillard hired by Weber State to be their general manager. And I remember we asked Bronco Mendenhall if they would hire a general manager, and I forget what his exact answer was, but he sort of kind of answered the question without answering it, I think being non-committal. I guess it was more about the fact that they kind of have somebody who does that role already. I think that may have actually been the answer he gave.
Yeah, it's a budget issue.
Yeah, that's another thing. And kind of my overall thought on this is, what does Utah State gain from doing that? Because I saw some Twitter discourse like, who would Utah State hire as a GM? And it's like Bobby Wagner, list all of the famous Aggie athletes. Yeah, J.C. Carroll. Other guys that are around the Valley. You could find someone who's, an Aggie great that's around the Valley that you could have be a GM. My question is, what on earth are they bringing value-wise that's worth the salary you would pay them? Now, mind you, that can be a serious, I kind of say it in a mocking tone, but like they could add value, like Bobby Wagner, it's Hall of Fame linebacker.
Pro Bowler, Hall of Famer.
Could be the career leader in tackles when all is said and done. And perhaps that brings some real value. I don't know how much you pay him for being the general manager, but, that's something that you could bring in. But if you're Utah State and you're not even able to bring a single dollar of revenue share yet, and you're trying to work toward having a significant amount of revenue share dollars, are you going to pay a potentially 6-figure salary for a celebrity general manager who may or may not actually bring the value that's necessary for a general manager? That's a question you have to ask yourself. Are they bringing that? Or if you're paying a 6-figure salary, you could pay an athlete a 6-figure salary who might bring more value just by being on the team and how good that player is that you're paying that kind of salary.
Yeah.
So
True.
To me, like, why is everyone in such a rush to hire Bobby Wagner as a GM? One, let him finish his NFL career, please. Damian Lillard's only doing this because he's got a torn Achilles.
Yeah, but Steph Curry is a general manager for Davidson. So
yeah. But wait, what is he actually doing for Davidson?
Well, that's what I don't know. And that's actually my question is, like, what do these people do as general manager other than when you're trying to make a recruiting pitch, they're on the call? Maybe they can help evaluate tape and evaluate players, but when it comes to getting players out of the portal or trying to recruit players to your program, they probably play a role there. But are they really acting as a general manager, or is this an honorary title to help them, help your program get some extra little, I don't know, leeway and raise some eyebrows about, that player is connected to your program, and they might send an email or a text or the occasional phone call. But beyond that, like, what is really their role? That's what I don't understand. Like, I see Adrian Wojnarowski, who used to work for ESPN. He was Mr. Insider on any NBA trade, any NBA deal. He left that to be the general manager for St. Bonaventure. And he's very active in playing the role as a general manager, talking about scheduling, talking about player recruitment, player retention, fundraising. I still follow him on social media, and he's as active now as he was in his role with ESPN, but it's all a singular focus on propping up and helping St. Bonaventure.
Yeah, he's doing the job of a general manager. Like, what's Steph Curry doing for Davidson? Like, he's focused on his NFL career. Damian Lillard, the only reason he's going to have an ability to do a significant amount for Weber State and potentially be around the block is that he's injured all of this season.
Yeah, he's got a lot of free time this year.
Yeah, so he's got all that free time. Like, if he were still going to be playing this season, he'd be doing jack squat because he'd be busy with his NBA team. May still be busy with his NBA team, depending on how much he's involved with that. So, yeah, in 6391, texting and saying, what would a general manager even do? It sounds like not much, considering Damian Lillard doesn't live in Utah and is under contract with an NBA team. And yeah, with Damian Lillard, maybe more free time, but with Steph Curry or with a bunch of other people, like if Bobby Wagner were suddenly the GM at Utah State, he's playing for the Washington Commanders. It's like, you bring up Adrian Wojnarowski, he's doing what a GM in college would do. But bringing on some former Aggie great to be general manager, well, are they a general manager? At which point, are you sure you should be just hiring any random former player? I guess not random former player, but like, you got to bring in somebody who knows how to do the job. Star athletes are good at being star athletes. They're not necessarily good at other things like management or coaching. You got to find someone who can do the job. So don't be in a rush to just add somebody as a celebrity general manager just because everyone else is doing it. Utah State didn't get to where it's at by making iffy financial decisions, which is what this would be. They got here by doing some penny pinching and balling on a budget. And that means having maybe somebody else do what a general manager does, be it Bronco Mendenhall, be it Jared Calhoun, depending on as far as what a general manager would do for a team or perhaps for an athletic department. They're bringing in like an NIL guy who may form some sort of general manager role or do some of the duties in that respect. But bring in somebody who can do that job as an administrator, and don't bring somebody in just because they have name value. That's how you get in trouble, is you make decisions based off of celebrity names and because everyone else is doing it.
Yeah, and is it a paid position? Is it...
if it's an unpaid position, I'm all for it.
Yeah, is it, you know what, I'm happy to lend my name to your recruiting efforts. And if I could just do a little video on my phone while I'm on a plane or in between things, it's not that, going to be that much of a time constraint for me to do this, to help my alma mater. Okay, great. If that's what it's about. But if it's about, hey, we need you to also evaluate film, and when we're trying to get guys out of the portal, you got to help us make a recruiting pitch. As we manufacture our roster, we need your help and assistance on that. Then that's much, much more time consuming, because then they got to watch film. Is this guy really the right fit? But look, Bobby Wagner, he's proven to be a pretty savvy business guy outside of football. And there's been a couple other former Aggies that have done well business-wise, so they know how to handle their money. And
yeah, they know how to balance a budget sheet, but are they good evaluators? Are they good coaches? Are they good administrators?
Right, that's fair. And that's what's uncertain about this whole, it's a kind of a sweeping the nation new thing about getting these celebrity former players as general managers, but I'm not really sure if anybody really knows what are they doing as a general manager.
And if it's a relatively unpaid or very low paid, mostly volunteer job, then I get that. You have a celebrity around the program, have them hang out with recruits, call recruits, text recruits. If it's that kind of thing, fantastic, and it's fine if they have a ceremonial title like general manager, even if that normally evokes prestige like it does in the NFL or NBA. But if you're paying them any significant amount of money, they better be in the building and doing a heck of a lot to earn that. Otherwise, it's a dumb financial decision. It's not a crippling decision, but Utah State has to stretch every single dollar, and they can't afford to just say, all right, we're bringing in J.C. Carroll to be the general manager just because.
Well, so in the case of Steph Curry, he's an assistant general manager.
So he does even less.
Davidson already has a general manager. But he, according to their release, he will provide guidance to the men's and women's teams based on his college and professional experience.
So in other words, he's going to talk to them every now and again.
Right. Yep. And he's going to help create a fund to so they can use to pay the athletes.
I hope they're not paying him too much. You'd like to. I'm sure Davidson would prefer that he pays them. Donate to them. He's got considerable career earnings. They'd hope that he becomes one of their biggest donors.
Yeah. So, announced earlier over the weekend, Damian Lillard, he was doing a camp in Ogden and announcing that he was taking on a similar role for the Weber State Wildcats. Great for Weber State.
That's fantastic.
I mean, he's a very notable alum and has helped them out in a lot of different ways and just gets them more in the spotlight once again.
Yeah,
and he's certainly got the time this year.
He's got plenty of time. But speaking of the NBA, the Athletic came out with some off-season grades. I know the off-season isn't over, and there's still some things that can happen, but like 95% of what's really important that's happened in the off-season has happened. The big free agents have signed. A lot of the big trades have already gone down. I know there's some stuff with Jonathan Kuminga and whatnot. There's still some drama there. But the draft has happened. Summer League has happened. So it's not a bad time to put out some off-season grades. Maybe revise them in like August, September, early October. But it's not a too early off-season grade. So they have a grade for everyone. And you look like Oklahoma City. They gave them an A for their efforts. Minnesota, B. You can go through and see what everyone did. Everyone loved the Nuggets off seasons. They gave them an A+.
Yeah, the only team get an A+.
Yeah, so as they managed to shift some players around and try and get something around Nikola Jokic, because he's been dying out there with
a little more versatility and depth.
Yeah, with a bit of a lack of help. But of course, the important one for us to consider is the Utah Jazz. And the Jazz, they kind of got shafted by getting the 5th overall pick in the draft as opposed to a top 3. They take Ace Bailey. They made a couple of trades, traded away Colin Sexton. They traded away John Collins. They waived/bought out Jordan Clarkson, allowing him to go elsewhere. So all that put together, Tony Jones, who covers the Jazz for The Athletic, gave the Jazz a B. You agree with that?
It seems a little high, but his reasoning was that the moves that Utah has made in the offseason, those moves clear the runway for the young guys to play, but even more importantly, it helps them secure one of the 8 worst records in the NBA for this upcoming season.
Yeah, which they pretty much have to have, ideally like a bottom 6, because you can always fall a couple of spots. Because, their pick next year is top 8 protected, and if they fall outside the top 8, the pick goes to the Oklahoma City Thunder. The shadow all the way back of the Derek Favors trade. They sent Derek Favors. They've had a couple of protected picks that convey to the next year. And this is the smallest amount of protections this pick will have. And if it doesn't convey this year, nothing happens. Oklahoma City gets nothing. So the Jazz, I think, just trying to tank one more year. There's a bit of smoke that they put out there when Danny Ainge's kid, Austin Ainge, is that his name? Where they were asking him, like, are they going to manipulate lineups and tank and all that? And he's like, that's not going to happen. And everyone was like, what? Are they not going to tank? And then they basically gave away Colin Sexton, John Collins, let Jordan Clarkson walk. And I was like, yeah, they're tanking. But I think B might be a bit high. But I get where Tony Jones is coming from. They accomplished what they needed to this offseason. Like, what were they going to do this offseason that would be better than what they've done? And basically the only answer is maybe get something for Colin Sexton or John Collins. And I guess the main thing is, like, who was going to give you that for Colin Sexton? Because clearly nobody wanted those players, at least for anything more than what they got. Otherwise, they would have got that. So they wanted to set things up for the young players. These veterans, as good as they were, they tried to prop them up for trade value, and that trade value didn't materialize. Didn't materialize in the middle of last season. It didn't materialize at any point in this offseason. So how long are you going to string these veterans along, potentially create locker room problems by veterans who are stuck on a bad team? They want to go somewhere and contend and potentially get paid more, potentially. Have bigger roles for potentially better teams. You can cause problems if you're just stringing them along and benching them every other game, because then you're hurting their career, you're hurting their value. They get tagged as a injury-prone player when maybe they're not, because you're telling them every other game you're going to sit with back spasms because we said so.
Yeah, right.
So you can't be stringing them along like that. So at some point, you just got to let them go. For one, it's the better thing to do, to not be a jerk to these veterans. And if you don't get, great value, then that's just kind of the way it is. Like, I remember people are still mad about Al Jefferson and Paul Millsap, where they basically let both of them go for nothing. They should have got a first-round pick for both of them. Nobody was giving you a first-round pick for both of them. And nobody was giving you a first-round pick for Colin Sexton. Nobody was giving you a first-round pick for John Collins. So I get that those were disappointing in terms of the value they got back, or the value they had to give up to get rid of those players. But in the end, it's addition by subtraction. At least addition in the long term by subtraction now.
Yeah, for the first couple of years of the Danny Ainge experience with this whole post Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert experience, it was basically the modus operandi was acquire, prop up, and trade. And so they were doing that with these other veterans. They'd kind of acquire some cast-offs. They'd feature them, increase their value, and then trade them for more future assets. Well, that worked for the first few years, but then in year 3, here it's, they were trying to make more room for the younger guys. And so the veterans that they had held on to just became casualties, collateral damage. And so they had to just let them go, because if they tried to prop them up, they'd win too many games, and they couldn't do that. So now they've spun them out. The mantra from that press release is, we're not going to manipulate minutes to tank. They're also not going to win very many games because they're going very young and inexperienced.
They're manipulating the roster so they don't have to manipulate the lineups.
Yes.
They're not getting fined this year.
Yeah, I mean, they still have Walker Kessler and Lowry Markkanen. They still have some nice players, but it's clear that this team is clearing the way for the young guys to sink or swim. And it's a long play. Fans have given them grace for the first few years of this. How much more will they be okay with? Will we see some upside in this group of young guys? Or is it going to be like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? This draft class in 2026 better be lights out amazing, or it's going to be hard to rebuild this Jazz fan base.
Yeah, basically you have two ways that the fan base are placated this year. One is you show a bunch of potential with guys like Ace Bailey, Walt Clayton, Taylor Hendricks. If those guys show they can be a core of star players. And they need to be star players. You can't just have decent rookies. You got to have star players that are impacting winning. You got to have these young players basically pushing the Jazz to like borderline playoffs as really young players. Well, I guess maybe not quite that. They don't have to do quite that good. But like, you want to see the star potential out of these guys, especially Ace Bailey, or perhaps maybe Walt Clayton instead. Somebody's got to do it. Odds are it's Ace Bailey because he's number 5 pick, and that's the guy they drafted for the potential. If they don't do that and everyone sucks and it turns out some of these guys are busts, then you better get one of those top 2 picks and get DeBonsa or, one of the, I forget which Boozer kid is the highest rated of them. But if not, Jazz fans are going to start getting real impatient real fast. If you have another year where they end up with like the 4th or 5th pick and another year where they don't have a star level prospect, because fans are getting tired of these okay, or like fringe all-star guys. Like everyone loves Walker Kessler. Everyone loves Larry Markkinen. But the whole point of this was to bottom out so you could win a championship. And if you can't pull that off, eventually people are going to start calling for the GM to, get fired because, well, this clearly didn't work, so let's try something else.
And we've wasted several years of good players.
Yeah.
And
they could have been in the
for
playoffs.
what?
They could have had winning teams. They could have had exciting teams. So they win championships? Probably not. But a lot of people, a lot of fans just want to watch a good team. That's why there's a lot of fans who don't like the tanking. Sure, they like a championship, but they're not, there's the kind of fan like me where it's like it's championship or bust and you're willing to go through a tank. But there are a lot of fans who just view sports differently and enjoy sports differently, validly so. Like I don't want to, just because I disagree, and they just want to see a good team. And those are the fans that you're really ticking off by wasting years of their fandom with a crappy team that they don't want to watch.
Yeah, Utah needed a good summer league to show some of these guys have promise and they are making improvements.
Do they even have a good summer league?
And I guess,
like, is anyone truly excited about what happened at summer league?
I'm okay. Like, I'm encouraged by what I saw out of Cody Williams. I like what I saw out of Kyle Filipowski. Ace Bailey, maybe we didn't see a lot of him.
That's the biggest reason.
So I don't really know.
The one thing I wanted to see was Ace Bailey. Cody Williams like playing better. That was nice. And I think in that sense you can kind of hang your hat on that a little bit. You've also got Kyle Filipowski. Turns out he's a rotation player in the NBA. We know that about him. That's pretty well confirmed, I think. And Walt Clayton, I don't know. We saw a couple of games. Then he got benched for like half the summer league as well. So it's like, I don't know if the Jazz had a great summer league because they didn't showcase all the guys that people wanted to see. And you just saw, we watched Kyle Filipowski put up a bunch of stats late in last season. We just saw more of that. It's summer league. We didn't get anything new with Kyle Filipowski. We got something new with Cody Williams. That was like, if it weren't for Cody Williams, I'd consider summer league a failure because we would have learned jack squat about anybody.
Yeah, well, I think we learned that Walter Clayton's going to push Isaiah Collier for who's going to be the lead point guard for this team in the future.
Yeah, but Clayton didn't play a ton anyway.
Yeah,
like he played some. There's a little pushing there, but it's like still it felt underwhelming. Wasn't a failure. I wouldn't label it that, but they've narrowly avoided that.
Quickly, a few texts that came through 2122. This must be in reference to our conversation with Utah State and general managers. Saying balling on a budget needs to be USU Athletics slogan. If not, I'll take it for my motto.
I know I say it like every 5 or 6 shows, so it's one of my phrases, along with too big for your britches, different things like that.
And then 5338, you should discuss the latest news with Amy Crosbie. In fact, probably a little bit more to get into. We'll take a timeout. We'll look at that and some other things going on with Utah State women's basketball, adding to their roster. We'll get to that as well. Coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
Dollar Loan Center now has 2 new locations in Logan and Ogden. Forget everything you've heard about short-term lending because DLC does it right. We're We're proud to announce that we're now open in Logan on Highway 89 near Walmart and in Ogden on 12th Street and Lincoln Avenue. Dollar Loan Center offers signature loans up to $5,000 in minutes, and you don't need great credit or collateral. No checking account required, no application fees, no origination fees, and no prepayment penalty. It's easy to qualify, and you only pay interest for the time you have the loan out. If you have a payday or title loan now, you are going to love Dollar Loan Center because you are paying too much. It costs nothing to find out how much you can borrow and get your first loan. The first week of interest is even on us, and there are no application fees. Really. Check us out online at don'tbebroke.com.
License by the Utah Department of Financial Institutions. Subject to approval, limitations may apply. See website for details.
The Doug Gottlieb Show.
Okay. Let's start with this. Finally nailed it, Gottlieb. I'm not going to hate on Derek Carr and say he stunk. That's not accurate. The only thing weird was his accents. He got to this kind of weird, almost Gruden-esque accent at some point in his life, but no real huge flaws as a human being. Thought he was just an okay quarterback. So, let's not make this out to some tragedy.
The Doug Gottlieb Show.
Weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan. It doesn't matter who you root for. The Full Court Press has all the high school sports covered. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Mountain Valley Heating and Air Conditioning wants you to feel the love as they give away and install 5 new furnace and air conditioners to families in need. They're donating the full HVAC system, equipment, materials, installation services to help deserving families who need a little extra help. But they need your help to do that. You need to nominate a family today. Nominations are open through the end of this month, so only a little bit more time left remaining. So 5 families, at least 5 families will be selected. But you can nominate a family by going to mtnvalleyhvac.com. Click on the Feel the Love tab to get your nomination in. And again, going back to the Young Power Sports of Logan text line 5338, prompting us to discuss the Amy Crosbie news. She did finally file a lawsuit. Salt Lake Tribune picked up on this. The lawsuit was filed last Thursday. In her lawsuit, Crosbie singles out Diana Sabo for treatment of her, saying that Sabo, quote, targeted her in meetings, excluding her from mentoring roles in various hiring committees, and criticized her performance, constantly belittling her work. And the article continues, when Crosbie appealed her firing, the lawsuit says she and her lawyers were not allowed to present evidence or witnesses to corroborate the accusations of Sabo's bullying. Crosby's suit also names Elizabeth Cantwell and Micah McKinney, the university's vice president of legal affairs and the school's general counsel, for basically violating her rights by firing her back on July 8th, 2024.
Yeah, so it's another page added to this saga, and it's just another pile of lawsuits. I'll be honest, I'm kind of done with this whole thing. You can probably hear it in my voice. I am ready for this whole thing to be over. And at this point, we've reached the legal portion where lawyers get involved, and everyone's just, I've heard, with Jerry and Blake that they're not interested in settling. We'll see how true that is. We'll see how willing Utah State is to settle, if they're willing to just drop some money on this and get it over with. But yeah, there's a lot of accusations. There's a lot of disputing the accusations. But honestly, at this point, I've said about all that I can say on this. Because
the only thing here is that I'm just a little surprised that it's taken this long for Amy Crosbie to file. I'm not surprised that she has filed. I thought that she had a case. Of course, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know all the ins and outs.
That's my thing. Is
what makes a case and what doesn't.
Yeah.
But I'm not surprised to see that she has finally filed something. It's almost a year after her firing took place. But apparently she doesn't seek any specific damages. Like Jerry Bovee in one of his sought specific damages. Blake Anderson in his he sought $15 million in damages. I guess Bovee sought $300,000 in back pay and damages. But Bovee's lawsuit and Crosbie's lawsuit have a lot of similarities in how they were treated and how they were, in their opinion, unjustly fired and removed from their positions at Utah State. So Amy Crosbie has now finally filed a suit against the university, against Elizabeth Cantwell specifically, against Diana Sabo specifically, and Micah McKinney specifically, for how she was let go last July.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on a lot of these lawsuits. I got to figure out how to follow lawsuits better and get an idea for when things go. And of course, things are still stuck in litigation, back and forth, motions to dismiss, and all that kind of stuff. I forget where the Blake and Jerry lawsuits are at this point, but got to check in on them. But yeah, just add another one to the pile. Billable hours are undefeated.
Yeah,
I know I'm kind of casting because these are actual people with actual grievances and whatnot. I don't mean to cast aside their feelings in all of this, but well, it's an era of Utah State athletics that I'd much like to leave in the mirror.
Yeah, Blake Anderson was out of coaching, but he has found his way back into coaching. Jerry Bovee is out of athletics. Amy Crosbie is out of athletics. Don't know if they'll be able to get back in because of some of the language that was used by Sabo and Cantwell in their firing. So they're fighting for their reputations and for who they're about, what they tried to be as professionals. So I don't fault them one bit for standing up for who they are and what they believe was unjustly done to them.
Yeah, and they weren't. Blake Anderson was high enough on the coaching ladder that he didn't have to fall too far and he could find a position. Jerry and Amy, I know they were assistant AD and all that, but it's hard for them to find another role like that. Given what happened, they'd have to go further down the ladder, and there's not too much further down the ladder to go before you're taking kind of entry-level jobs into athletics. So, yeah, they basically have to leave athletics and go find administrative-type roles in other businesses, which obviously that's not where they thought their careers were going to go. They thought they were going to have their career in athletics.
Yeah.
And that's not going to happen, most likely, for either of them.
Yeah, they're young. Both of them are young enough they can still have many more years ahead of them.
They still got careers
professionally.
And again, they both thought they were going to do it with the Aggies. They're both Aggies. But
right.
That path is forever closed to them, and that's not a fun thing for them to have to deal with.
Other Utah State news today. Looks like Utah State women's basketball is not done filling out their roster, announcing today that they have added Rachel Wilson. And it's a big forward or small center position.
Yeah, kind of a forward center because 6'2", that's about your taller power forwards and maybe slightly shorter centers. I mean, basically imagine a 6'10" center in the NBA. That's roughly what you're looking at as far as can play center. Maybe they're slightly shorter than some of the players around them, but this is a player I think I'd expect to play center for the Aggies for the most part. But yeah, coming from Wheeling. She played for Anna Kowalska, who was the coach at Wheeling, but now is the associate head coach at Utah State. So very clear connection there and probably had a lot to play with this recruitment. But yeah, Wilson averaged almost 13 points, just over 9 rebounds per game last year, shot north of 50% from the field, and, had a bunch of double-doubles, scored in double figures a lot. So this is the kind of player that I think Utah State really needed. They've been adding guards and some wings, some players that can maybe kind of fit that power forward position. But outside of Sophie Sen, they didn't really have a center. They had players who could play center, but they needed another center along with Sophie.
They need some size.
Sophie, the 6'3". So they add someone who's can play that center, who's a great rebounder. Someone who can go out there and just get boards, get as many as possible. And so I think this is a great ad for its fit, and also it's someone who's a good producer as far as go out there, get points, get rebounds, score in the paint. Do the dirty business in the paint. That's what they needed because they've surrounded the paint with good perimeter players, but they needed someone in the paint to rebound and defend as well. You want someone who can defend as well. So looking forward to seeing the Aggies, who are looking like there's a pretty good chance they can have a bounce back year. Now, I know we've kind of said that and talked about that maybe happening every single year, but I think Wes Brooks has done a really good job at going out and finding those players who could maybe be that kind of, spark plug player to get this program going. So something I've said for the last few years is they just got to get lucky and find someone who can come in, be a star, lift them up off the ground, and then it becomes that self-perpetuating cycle of, if you're good, you get good recruits, and then you're a good team because you got good recruits, and then because you're a good team, you get more good recruits, and you're rolling on and on.
Right.
When you're a bad team, you can't get as good recruits, and if you don't have as good recruits, you aren't as good, and so on and so forth. And the only way to break the cycle going either way is to have, a series of bad years, and then you can kind of go downhill. Or if you're a bad team, just have some good years, and then you can, kickstart that process of being a better program. And that's what Wes Brooks is trying to do. He brings in a player who's a former 5-star recruit, like top 10 recruit in the nation. It's a long shot. There's a reason that she's now coming to Utah State. It's because her opportunities kind of dried up elsewhere. But she also had a connection to Wes Brooks, so he was able to bring her in. If that talent's still there, obviously it was a tragedy that kind of offset her career. She got shot, literally. So that destabilized her career. But if she gets back on track, she's a star for the Aggies. Bring in recruits like Elise Livingston. Bring in players like Rachel Wilson who can maybe make the jump with Utah State and be good producers. If you can get those kind of players and have a turnaround year, that's what turns around Utah State women's basketball. Turns them from being a team that's been in the gutter of the Mountain West to a team that's contending in the Pac-12. So hopefully this year is the year. That's what we're hoping for.
Yeah, and there's a lot of international players in this mix too.
And international players can be gems because
sometimes, right, because they just
you don't know.
The scouting is not there from other teams. They don't really know.
And a lot of coaches don't. You don't know where to look in Europe. You got to know where to look in Europe, and then you'll find them. And so Utah State can find diamonds in the rough, almost literally in a sense.
Yes, yeah. So adding to their roster and trying to get their team together and ready. Is this a little bit late to be adding a player? Don't you think? Because they've been having practices.
Nemish Keta was added about this late to the Aggies when he came in, if I remember.
Okay.
It is late, but it's not too late.
It's not too late, right. Because they do some things in the summer. They have to take some time off, and then they're back again at it in the fall. Yeah,
but not all the players are even in right now. They only got 5 or 6. I mean, she probably makes like the 6th or 7th player.
Yeah, that's true.
They're still getting players back. And honestly, out of anything that worries me at this point about the Aggies, it's how late they're going to be getting together. Men's team is already developing chemistry. They're halfway to getting things rolling with their chemistry and their synergy.
Understanding roles.
Women's team, which desperately needs to be better this year, hasn't even gotten started yet.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. Very concerning for them. Coming up here on after another timeout here on the Full Court Press, NCAA expansion. What's the latest on that? There's been a lot of rumors, a lot of discussion. Is the tournament field going to expand for March Madness, or is it going to stay as it is? We'll discuss the latest on that next here on the Full Court Press.
Hey, so I'm going to ask you a question and then give you some time to think about the answer. Who do you know that seems checked out, distant, off? Did someone come to mind? Great. Think of a way you can check in with them. Maybe a text, a call, or a visit. It doesn't have to be something big, because just trying can be a big deal. Connection can prevent suicide.
Let's connect. Come be part of Ignite the Light, August 7th at the Cache County Fair and Rodeo. Let's help shine a light on mental health and suicide prevention with professional resource help. Guest speaker JT Laybourne at 7 and a free concert beginning at 8. Your connection matters. Bring mental health and suicide prevention to light. August 7th at the Cache County Fair and Rodeo. Google Ignite the Light for details.
In today's day and age, getting the right information in a timely manner is essential, especially when it's about what's going on in your own neighborhoods, in Logan and Hiram, in North Logan and Smithfield, in Providence and Millville, in Tremonton and Preston. Knowing the truth from trusted sources should be available to everyone in our community, Cache Valley Daily is committed to being your link to local news and sports. Know what's going on in your community. Visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
As you get older, it's more important than ever to eat healthy. But that can be hard for those of us who are retired and living on a fixed income, especially during COVID-19. A friend told me about benefitscheckup.org. It's a free website from the National Council on Aging, and it's helped millions of older Americans pay for healthy food. Maybe it can help you. Benefitscheckup.org. You've earned this. This message is supported by the Administration for Community Living.
Visit phassociation.org to help provide hope for children with PH. The Pulmonary Hypertension Association, empowered by hope.
Join the show by calling 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. Love to hear from you as well on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, 435-339-0321. On the Back to Expanded Full Court Press, full 2 hours here on The Fan. News that there's been rumors back and forth about what could happen with the NCAA tournament. And it looked like there was some real serious discussion about expanding it, adding maybe another city for the first 4, more play-in games. But looks like they're going to just stand pat for now.
Yeah, the greedy a-holes of the NCAA are pushing their expansion of the NCAA tournament back at least another year. Dan Gavitt quoted in ESPN and I'm sure a bunch of other places, just saying in a statement that it's not being talked about for this year, for 2026, the 2026 March Madness. But he says, however, the committees will continue conversations on whether to recommend expanding to 72 or 76 teams in advance of the 2027 championships. So not this year, but next season. And there's some talk, Charlie Baker, he's quoted talking about how there's a bit of a time crunch because they have Selection Sunday literally hours after the final conference title game, and then it has to be done before the Masters, the Tuesday before the Masters in April. So there's not a lot of room for expansion, which hopefully that's the thing that dissuades them from expanding the tournament, or at least something, literally anything. But it does feel like it's inevitable, I think, because I don't think they can add enough that there's going to be another round. Like, they're going to keep the, 1 through 16 seeds, but they're going to add another play-in, basically. Which, I don't know. Everyone is in agreement on this. I'd be preaching to the choir if I went on a rant here, but literally everybody, except the greedy suit-clad men in boardrooms in the NCAA, agree that the tournament shouldn't be expanded. Coaches, players, literally everybody, except the people who actually get to make the decision. But because they're being told by the SEC and Big Ten, they want more teams in the tournament, because that's more units for them, more all that stuff, because they're not adding another team out of the A-10 or the Mountain West or whatever. They're adding that 15th SEC team or that 16th Big Ten team so that they can basically have the entire conference in the tournament. And so that's what it's going to result in. And since that makes them more money, that's what they want. And no regard for the athletes, no regard for the sport, no regard for tradition, no regard for anything. It's money, and that's that. It's just like with conference expansion. No regard for the athlete, no regard for the fans, no regard for tradition, actively spitting and excreting other bodily fluids onto it. They don't care one bit about it. It's all about money, and it's all about being a greedy a-hole. So I told you how I really feel, by the way.
Well, I mean, there are some coaches that are in favor of it. Of course, most of those coaches are in the SEC.
They're all in the SEC and Big Ten.
But
And there's only like 3 of them.
It's a two-sided coin for me. On one, I see there are teams, bubble teams that we debate every year. And I get it. If you add more teams, you're just moving the goalposts. And there's a whole new set of teams that we'll debate, whether they're in or not. But if there's an opportunity to do more first 4, if you will, and do them in a Western time zone, whether it's the Mountain time zone or the Pacific time zone, and you make those Tuesday and Wednesday nights even more interesting and compelling.
Are they interesting? Who watches the first 4?
Some people do.
The people with teams involved. That's it.
And if you add more teams, you're going to add more eyeballs and more interest and intrigue. And at the end of the day, it's an opportunity to make more money, which all these teams are in schools and conferences are trying to find ways to make more money. But on the other side of that coin is my concern that those games will just be more of let's put the 15 seed and the 16 seed in those games. And that is total bull. Those Tuesday and Wednesday games should be exclusively for bubble teams. Those are the 12 seeds, the 13 seeds, the 10 seed, whatever, from the power conferences that may be on the bubble. Make Tuesday and Wednesday truly a play-in to the full NCAA field. Don't put a 15 seed or a 16 seed in there just because they come from a smaller conference. So that's my concern, is that turns into a way for the powers that be to clear out the small schools. So when you get to the real tournament starting Thursday morning, it truly is, the better teams competing against each other.
Yeah, I think that would be nice where if you have to expand, there's a few compromises I'd be willing to make. One would be, I think, get rid of the 16 seed play-ins, make them exclusively your 11, 12 seeds. Basically have every 11 and 12 seed. Would that math work? Basically all the 11 and 12 seeds, like those are all play-ins. I don't know if the math works. If it doesn't, have a 10 seed or something like that. However the math works, put them all there in the middle, have them all be bubble teams. I know at that point, the excuse would then be, well, that's where you put all the Mountain West teams, is they all end up in play-ins against each other, probably. But... or against other mid-majors, not necessarily against each other, but against other mid-majors. But the one compromise, and I'd legit let, I'd be 100% fine with expansion happening if I got this compromise. And that is every regular season and every conference title winning team gets in. Now, if it's the same team, the same team.
Right. Add legitimate value to the regular season.
Yeah.
Conference tournament title teams already have that path established, but reward those teams who play well for a couple of months rather than just a few days.
Yeah. And so if that happens, then you can get you finally start getting, 2-bid conferences. And, the conference tournament would retain a lot of its excitement, obviously, because, the regular season team, they've already secured it, but they're competitive. They want to win a conference tournament title. Then it adds drama within the conference because then the conference is all suddenly very much rooting against the one team because they want 2 teams in. So everyone's rooting against the regular season title winner. And so that adds more excitement, more fun, more meaning to an upset in that sense. Well, I guess maybe not as much meaning to an upset because, we don't need to get into that. But you have a ton of excitement, and then again, you still have path to the NCAA tournament. So I would be fine with that because then you get more teams in the tournament, but then there's more teams that have earned their way in to some degree, and you're not just handing the SEC and Big Ten, more spots. But of course, they won't give that compromise, but I think it's a fantastic compromise, but nobody in the NCAA actually listens to good ideas. Otherwise, we would have a lot different landscape in college sports.
Yeah, and it could get tricky if the Big West regular season champion is also the tournament champion.
Well, then it's just you get one team.
Big.
But then again, that adds to the drama though, because then suddenly
that one bid is all of a sudden freed up to go somewhere else as an at-large to somebody.
Yeah, and so that adds a lot more drama. It adds drama within the conference, and suddenly everyone hates the one team because they got rid of one of the bids for the conference. But hey, that's your best team, and then you got teams that are on the bubble, they're also rooting for that one team to sweep both titles because then that's another at-large bid for them. So I think it would be fantastic. It would be amazing. And I also kind of hate the fact that the conference title is rewarded more than the regular season conference title. I hate that.
The tournament title?
Yeah, the tournament title is rewarded more than the regular season title. I think that's stupid because it devalues most of the season. Like, what are we, I know college basketball is basically all about March, and it is also amazing. I talk about how stupid it is, but also how amazing it is. The fact that it's a stupid way to decide a champion, but nobody cares because it's amazing.
Right.
And I get that. But at least give me this. Give me this back. Value the regular season again.
Yes. Well, for 2025-2026 season, the NCAA March Madness is going to be as it has been over the last several years.
Field of 68, which is already too big. It should just be 64.
But there's still continue to have discussions about 2027 and beyond. Those discussions have not died. They are still talking about it. We got to take a time out here in the Full Court Press, but when we come back, Pick 6 results. How did we do? And trying to predict what would happen over the weekend. We'll reveal that next here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Insuring your business can be frustrating. If you are confused about coverages, your rates are increasing, or you can't get a hold of your agent, it's time for a change. This is Matt Robbins with Quality First Insurance. We do return your calls because we work for you. We believe that protecting your business should be affordable and hassle-free. As an independent agency, we have access to multiple carriers like Auto Owners Insurance and will give you options. Call us today, 435-752-0101.
This is Two Pros and a Cup of Joe.
We're getting back into it.
Guess what? He's right.
If you go back, though, there was a lot of smoke in regards to the frustration of Caleb Williams and his party on his side of things with the entire draft process. Now we have confirmation that all that was true.
Two Pros. LeVar Arrington, Brady Quinn, and a Cup of Joe. Jonas Knox.
Weekday mornings from 4 to 7 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Limitless local possibilities with Cache Valley Media Group, shaping the future of local engagement throughout northern Utah.
Stay connected with comprehensive local news and vibrant local radio personalities who are the voices you know and love, turning every broadcast into a familiar conversation.
We proudly sponsor and bring to life local events that define our region, celebrating the spirit that makes us unique.
Roar with the crowd as we rally behind local sports teams, uniting hearts in the thrill of victory.
And in the digital realm, we turn digital connections into real-life conversions.
From successful businesses thriving through our expertise to campaigns that spark conversations, we're writing the story of local success together.
Cache Valley Media Group is at your side, shaping engagement, sparking growth, and celebrating the essence of northern Utah.
Discover more at CacheValleyMediaGroup.com.
It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. Feels good going back to 2 hours.
It was got a nice full show. Got to actually talk about things. Go along. You don't have to worry about going too long because then have to push another topic. It's like we got to talk about sports.
Yes, and we've covered a lot of different topics today, which is great. A lot going on, and it's going to just continue ramping up. Tomorrow morning, I'll have an opportunity to go get some interviews with some of the players after practice, and so we'll hear from them how things are going now after they're actually getting onto the field. Some of the freshmen are there, and I won't be able to see practice. But I'll at least get to talk to the players, and they can tell me.
You snuck into practice before. On accident.
On accident. It wasn't intentional.
On accident, in full view of everybody. Nobody questioned why you were there. It's there.
Hey, on Thursdays, normally, last week we did it on a Friday, but we try to predict what will happen for the upcoming weekend. We call it Pick 6. Jason has 3 lines. I have 3 lines. We do a tiebreaker. And then on Monday, we recap to see how we did and a way to look back at some of the things that happened over the weekend.
Yeah, a lot of racing and baseball and WNBA with these lines. We need to get some football lines in here.
Yes.
So starting with mine, this is a racing one. IMSA, they were at Road America. They asked whether an Acura hypercar would finish in the top 3. Eric, you said they'd finish outside the top 3. I said they would, and There was an Acura hypercar that finished third. So I get that one. And then we had RSL goals against Atletico de San Luis in their Leagues Cup game. I set the line at 0.5, basically a would they, won't they score. We both took the over, and they scored 2 goals.
Nice.
Ultimately lost in PKs, but they scored 2 goals. Then had New York Liberty by 11.5 over the Connecticut Sun on Friday. And you took the Sun to cover that. I took the Liberty. Well, the Liberty lost by 16 points, so they didn't cover their 11.5 point spread over the Sun. So we're tied 2-2. And going to this one, McLaren vehicles in the top 3 at the Hungarian Grand Prix. Over under 1.5. Basically, would they get Piastri and Lando Norris in the top 3? I said under 1.5, so only one of them, or 0, and you said over. Well, McLaren got the 1-2 finish.
Nice.
So they got 2 on the podium there.
They're really on a roll this year.
Yeah, they're doing great. So you're up 3-2. Then we have combined hits and stolen bases by Pete Crow Armstrong in Saturday and Sunday for the Cubs. You set the line at 2.5. Well, he had none of that. 0 across the board.
Yeah, that wasn't very good.
Yeah, not very good from him. We both took the over, though, so it didn't matter which way he went. So it's still 3-2 for you. And then you had combined points for Nafisa Collier and Asia Wilson in the Saturday matchup of the Minnesota Lynx and...
You asked, begged, and even pleaded, and the heavens...
Sorry, we can continue.
We're still going.
Yep.
Don't tune out just yet. And they're the Minnesota Lynx and Las Vegas Aces. You set the line at 51.5. I took the under. You took the over. They combined for only 28 points. Low scoring game for both of those players. A.J. Wilson only had 10 points.
Yeah, it was supposed to be this big, exciting game, and it turned out to be a dud.
Yeah, not very good. Yeah. So that takes us to the tiebreaker. We've not had to go to the tiebreaker for a while. And the tiebreaker was the Dodgers or the Rays in their 3-game series over the weekend. You took the Dodgers, and that left me with the Rays. Well, the Dodgers won the series 2-1.
Whoa! A rare victory.
So there you go. Victory for Eric in pick 6. So there we go.
There we go. Nice.
I got to get on a winning streak again.
It's the luck of expanding to 2 hours.
Yeah, basically. 6391 on the text line before we close out the show in the next couple of minutes. Saying, I don't think you guys talked about it, but the Jordan Love Players Tribune article was fantastic. Worth a read and discussion tomorrow. Yeah, I looked at it earlier today. I was skimming through some of it, and a lot of people absolutely loved it. I was busy doing a few other things. I think I noted on our other potential topics for today, but we can potentially get into some of those things tomorrow because, yeah, very, very long piece. I think it's written a couple of them now for the Players Tribune, but talked a lot about his past, his father, his motivation for playing football and different things like that from some of the parts that I read.
And he is no Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, he's no Aaron Rodgers. He's going to be his own self. Aaron Rodgers was kind of defined by Brett Favre for a little while, I think, but then he made his legacy, and you'd hope that Jordan Love is able to be the same. He's not the next Aaron Rodgers. He's Jordan Love.
Yeah. What a great representative for Utah State. The other thing, too, that just maybe stick in your hat for upcoming segment. Major League Baseball held a pretty interesting game, at least on paper. They were going to hold that.
Had some troubles.
Yeah, had some weather issues in Bristol, the Motor Speedway there. But Major League Baseball has done an interesting job of taking their sport into some unique places. What can other sports learn from this, or what are other sports already doing? But is one sport in particular really missing the boat here, as others have taken advantage of these kinds of opportunities? So we'll discuss that and a whole lot more. We'll have the player audio from practice tomorrow. I'll be speaking with Bronson Oliveo Jr. and Brian Pagan. Braden Pagan. Sorry, I keep mispronouncing that.
He keeps calling him Brian. I don't know why he does it.
I'm going to tell him that tomorrow.
I've never messed up a player's name. Never. It's never happened to me.
Thanks for tuning in and joining us on the expanded Full Court Press. 2 hours every weekday from 4 to 6 here on The Fan.
And even pleaded, and the heavens heard you. KLGN Logan, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.